Andrew Berry didn't just get a title bump. He seized control of a fractured franchise. With Kevin Stefanski out and Paul DePodesta gone, Berry now stands as the undisputed architect of the Cleveland Browns. Folder not found. Create new folder. Paul DePodesta photos. This isn't just a promotion, it's a statement. For a general manager whose tenure has drawn mixed reviews, Berry now has the authority, backing, and responsibility to chart a new course. The front office shakeup wasn't cosmetic, it was structural.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
And it's all happening as one name gains momentum in the locker room: Shedeur Sanders. Berry's elevation represents more than a personnel shift. It's the Browns aligning their entire future around one idea: building an offense tailored to a modern quarterback prototype. Sanders isn't just part of the plan. He is the plan. With 2026 circled as a target, every move from here reflects a franchise finally committing to a quarterback blueprint that could break its cycle of failure. Kevin Stefanski is out. Andrew Berry just got one of the biggest promotions in the NFL. And Shedeur Sanders, yes, that Shedeur, is at the center of the Browns' newest reboot. Welcome to another wild chapter in Cleveland's never-ending football soap opera. This isn't just another off-season shuffle. This is a top-down restructuring, a power shift, a declaration that the old vision wasn't working, and a signal that the franchise is finally ready to bet big on its future. And that future? It's being built around one name: Shedeur Sanders. Let's start with the obvious headline. Head coach Kevin Stefanski has been fired. Gone. Shown the door. After years of trying to juggle inconsistent quarterback play, confusing offensive schemes, and questionable game management, the Browns officially decided it was time for a change. And not just a new coach. They're flipping the entire organizational hierarchy. Enter Andrew Berry, who's been promoted from general manager to president. That's right, president. He now wields massive influence over the direction of the team, possibly second only to ownership. This move isn't just a routine title bump. It's a full-on power grab by Berry, one that puts him in the driver's seat for shaping the next era of Browns football. And let's not forget, Paul DePodesta, the chief strategy officer and longtime analytics guru, is out too. With his departure, the Browns are turning the page on the analytics-heavy identity they've been chasing since 2016. DePodesta was instrumental in pushing the Moneyball approach. Data, spreadsheets, optimization. But the results were mixed at best. Now, the front office is clearing the decks and going all in on a more player-focused vision. Translation: it's time to get real about quarterback development. And that's where things get interesting. Because here's where the Shedeur Sanders hype train really starts revving up. With Stefanski gone, Berry elevated, and DePodesta removed from the picture, all signs point to a strategic realignment centered on one very specific goal: developing Shedeur Sanders into a franchise quarterback by 2026. It's no secret that the Browns have been cursed when it comes to QBs. Draft busts, injuries, trades gone wrong. You name it, Cleveland's lived through it. But now, they seem ready to break the cycle. Berry's promotion gives him the authority to reshape the coaching staff. That means the next head coach, whoever he is, will almost certainly be a hand-picked, a fence-first mind tasked with one mission: build an entire system around Sanders' strengths. Mobility, arm talent, poise, mental toughness. These are the traits that modern NFL teams are drooling over, and Sanders fits that mold perfectly. This isn't just a draft pick or a long-term project. It's a franchise-altering bet. And Berry is making it loud and clear that he wants Sanders to be the guy by 2026. Not a backup, not a developmental arm. The starter, the centerpiece. The decision to clear out Stefanski and DePodesta in the same breath wasn't accidental. This is a reset. A declaration that the old guard, whatever version of analytics meets traditional football they were running, is over. The Browns are finally acknowledging that disjointed processes and half measures haven't worked. So now, they're trying something else. Centralized leadership, a clear quarterback development track, and a new offensive identity. And the implications are massive. First off, Andrew Berry now has the freedom to bring in a coaching staff that aligns entirely with his vision. No more compromises. No more balancing acts between offensive philosophy and player development. He's in control, and he's expected to act like it. That means we're likely going to see a new head coach who's not just quarterback-friendly, but quarterback-obsessed. Think someone who's going to mold a scheme that amplifies Sanders' skill set and fast-tracks his readiness for 2026. Second, the team's front office is signaling a serious shift in culture. Moving away from analytics doesn't mean they're throwing out data entirely. It just means they're prioritizing leadership, player growth, and cohesive strategy. They're betting on trust, vision, a unified plan. After years of internal contradictions, that alone feels like a step in the right direction. But let's be clear, there are skeptics, and they have reason to be skeptical. Andrew Berry's track record isn't spotless. The Browns have had flashes of brilliance under his leadership, but they've also had plenty of misfires, roster inconsistencies, questionable free agency decisions, and the ever-looming Deshaun Watson saga, which is still eating up cap space and complicating the quarterback room. So for Berry to now become president, that's a bold vote of confidence from ownership. Maybe too bold, depending on who you ask. Still, this move tells you everything you need to know about the Browns' priorities. They're done waiting. They're ready to throw the full weight of the organization behind one plan, one quarterback, one future. And right now, Shedeur Sanders is the focal point of that plan. It's worth noting just how big of a deal this is. The NFL doesn't hand out second chances to franchises that keep making the same mistakes. The Browns have been rebuilding since what feels like forever. But with Berry's promotion and the clear emphasis on quarterback development, they might finally have the internal structure to pull it off. This is a long-term strategy, but it's also a countdown. All roads now lead to 2026. The clock is ticking, and the pressure is on. Because if this doesn't work, if Sanders doesn't develop into that franchise quarterback, if Berry's vision collapses under the weight of expectations, then this would just be another failed chapter in a franchise already stacked with disappointments. But if it does work, the Browns might finally crawl out of quarterback graveyard and into the modern NFL spotlight. There's no middle ground here. It's boom or bust. With that in mind, every move from here on out matters. The new head coach hire, the offensive scheme, the personnel decisions, the development plan for Sanders. Everything has to be in lockstep. And with Berry now holding the reins, there's no one else to blame if things fall apart. This is a kind of franchise overhaul that either rewrites history or adds to the pile of cautionary tales. It's ambitious. It's risky. It's very on-brand for Cleveland. And the biggest takeaway? This isn't just a reboot. It's a recalibration of power and purpose. The Browns aren't playing it safe anymore. They're picking a direction and committing hard. Whether that direction leads to success or another meltdown remains to be seen. What we do know is that this isn't the same old Browns front office. This version is younger, more aggressive, and laser-focused on fixing the quarterback position once and for all. The firing of Stefanski, the exit of Podesta, and the promotion of Berry are all chapters in the same story. A story that ends, one way or another, with Shedeur Sanders at the center of it. And by the time 2026 rolls around, we'll know exactly how it turned out. Let me know what you think. Is this the right move for the Browns? Can Shedeur Sanders live up to the hype? Or is this just another overly ambitious rebuild doomed to fail? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you're here for the drama. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next meltdown. All right, let's keep going. Because the story is not done unraveling. The Browns didn't just reshuffle the deck. They flipped the entire table. And the way they're placing their bets, there's no going back. When a franchise fires its head coach and its longtime strategy officer in the same breath, while promoting the general manager to essentially the top of the food chain, that's not patchwork. That's a full-blown reset. And this reset is being built around a quarterback who hasn't even taken an NFL snap yet. Let that sink in for a second. Shedeur Sanders hasn't played it down in the NFL, and yet the Cleveland Browns are reorganizing their leadership, revamping their strategy, and clearing the runway for him to potentially take over by 2026. That's how much they believe in his potential. That's how desperate they are to fix the quarterback position once and for all. 2. Because Cleveland knows the clock is ticking, not just on this rebuild, but on the patience of their fans, the stability of the locker room, and the credibility of their front office. After decades of swinging and missing on quarterbacks, they're now placing the future of the franchise in the hands of a guy who might be ready 2 years from now. The stakes? Astronomical. And all of it rests on Andrew Berry. With Berry now elevated to president, he holds the kind of organizational power that very few people in the NFL ever get. He's now the face behind the football decisions and the architect of the team's entire vision. This isn't just about overseeing draft boards and contracts. It's about defining the identity of the Cleveland Browns, on and off the field. And if you're going to do that, you better deliver, because with power comes exposure. Every move Berry makes from now on will be scrutinized under a microscope. If he brings in a new coach who can't elevate Shedeur Sanders, that's on him. If Sanders doesn't develop the way they're projecting, that's on him too. If the team sputters into mediocrity while waiting for a quarterback savior who never arrives, you guessed it, still on him. It's the kind of gamble that can make or break a career. But there's a reason this feels different. For once, the Browns are showing alignment, ownership, front office, and, soon enough, a hand-picked coaching staff, all pulling in the same direction. That hasn't always been the case in Cleveland. In fact, most of their last 2 decades have been plagued by internal dysfunction, ego clashes, and inconsistent messaging. 2. This move, for better or worse, eliminates the noise. And that's key if you're trying to develop a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders. Because let's be honest, developing a franchise QB isn't just about talent. It's about environment, coaching, vision, culture. You need a system that's designed not just to showcase a quarterback's skills, but to support him when things go sideways. And in the NFL, things always go sideways. That's why this organizational overhaul matters so much. For the first time in years, the Browns are giving themselves a chance to get it right. By putting Bear at the top, removing conflicting voices, and resetting the coaching staff, they're building a pipeline from ownership to the field that's singular in purpose. Develop Shedeur Sanders into a star. Now, let's not get it twisted. This isn't a fairy tale. There's still major risks. For one, Shedeur Sanders has to want to be in Cleveland. And we've already seen how player preferences, market size, and fit can complicate the draft process. The Browns will need to convince Sanders and his camp that they're serious about his development, that they have the infrastructure to support him, and that Cleveland, yes, Cleveland, can be a place where quarterbacks thrive. That's a hard sell historically, but it's not impossible, especially if Berry lands the right coach. That decision might end up being the most important one he'll ever make. Stefanski, for all his strengths and weaknesses, wasn't hired to build around a quarterback like Sanders, but the next coach will be. That's the entire point of this restructure. The Browns aren't just replacing a coach. They're building a system from scratch. Think about what that means in practical terms. New offensive schemes, new playbooks, new quarterback coaches, probably a new offensive coordinator with a resume full of modern quarterback-friendly schemes, RPOs, spread concepts, tempo variations, all of it. The kind of system that makes life easier for a young quarterback still adjusting to. The speed of the NFL. And all of it has to be in place before Sanders gets there. So no, this isn't a reactionary move. This is chess. The Browns are trying to get 2 steps ahead. Instead of scrambling to adapt once they have their quarterback, they're setting the table now. So when Sanders arrives, the conditions are perfect. But let's also be real. The Browns have a way of making the perfect conditions go sideways. If they've proven anything over the years, it's that talent and planning don't always translate to wins. So what's different this time? Well, for starters, control. With the Podesta gone, Berry no longer has to share power. The internal friction between analytics and traditional football operations is gone. That doesn't mean Berry's abandoning analytics. He helped build this front office with data as a backbone. But now, he has the freedom to blend numbers with instincts, to lead with his own football philosophy, not just follow a spreadsheet. That's huge, because quarterbacks aren't numbers. They're people, and developing one, especially a high-profile, high-expectation name like Shedeur Sanders, takes more than analytics. It takes commitment. It takes belief. It takes an organization that's not afraid to build an entire identity around one player. That's what the Browns are doing now. This isn't just about 2026. It's about the next decade. They're betting that if they get this right, they won't just fix their quarterback problem. They'll redefine what the Cleveland Browns stand for. But let's not crown them just yet. Until Shedeur Sanders is under center, lighting up NFL defenses, this is all just theory, a vision, a plan. And if there's one thing Browns fans have learned, it's to stay cautious. They've seen top picks flame out. They watch front office shakeups lead nowhere. They've been here before, filled with hope that quickly curdles into frustration. So this time, it has to be different. Barry has to make the right coaching hire. Sanders has to live up to the hype. The system has to gel. The culture has to hold. And even then, there are no guarantees. But at least now, for the first time in a long time, there's a plan. A real, unified plan. Not patchwork. Not impulse moves. A clear path toward building a franchise around a quarterback that actually fits the direction of the modern NFL. It's bold. It's risky. It's Cleveland. And whether it works or not, we're going to be watching. Now, we've talked about the Stefanski firing. We've covered the Andrew Barry promotion. We've zeroed in on Shedeur Sanders as a golden ticket. But let's not gloss over what this all actually means day to day inside the building. This is not just some boardroom decision being filtered down to the locker room. This is a kind of tectonic realignment that affects every player, every coach, every scout, and every person in football ops. It's the kind of change that leaves people whispering in hallways, wondering who's next to be let go or who's getting brought in from the outside. It turns the whole building into a pressure cooker. The Browns didn't just fire a coach. They sent a message. You're either on board with this vision or you're out. And the vision is crystal clear. Shedeur is the future. Everything else is just set up. You've got Andrew Barry, now with presidential authority, hand-picking a coach. Not just any coach. Someone who's going to live and breathe quarterback development. This isn't going to be a recycled defensive coordinator or a safe, middle-of-the-road pick. No, they're going for someone who can design an offense around a quarterback, like Shedeur Sanders from day one. Someone who gets spacing, who gets timing, who gets how to build confidence in a young QB without babying him. Because let's not forget, Shedeur comes with expectations. He's not walking in quietly. This isn't a kid you can tuck behind a journeyman vet for 3 years while he learns to tie his cleats. When he gets drafted, if the Browns manage to make that happen, the clock starts immediately. Cleveland isn't just rebuilding. They're preparing a throne. And that kind of commitment isn't normal for this franchise. The Browns have cycled through quarterbacks like fast fashion, always new, always temporary, and always just a little underwhelming. This time, they want permanence, foundation, identity, and for better or worse, they're putting all of that weight on Shedeur Sanders. But let's ask the real question, can he handle it? Well, if you look at the traits, yeah, he's got the physical tools, the arm strength, the accuracy, the poise. He reads defenses well, makes smart decisions, and isn't rattled under pressure. He's also got that intangible leader energy that front offices drool over. Add in the fact that he's used to attention, used to pressure, and you start to see why this isn't just wishful thinking. It's calculated. Still, being the guy in Cleveland, that's not just a football job. It's a burden. It's living inside a storm of expectations that's chewed up and spit out a long list of promising prospects. It's waking up every day knowing the entire city is looking to you to fix something that's been broken for decades. And here's where Barry's role gets even more important. Because for Shedeur to succeed, the Browns can't just build around him offensively. They need to protect him organizationally. No more leaks. No more mixed messaging. No more coaching staff turnover every 2 seasons. You can't expect a young quarterback to lead if everything around him is crumbling. And maybe that's why Barry was promoted. Not because his record is perfect, but because ownership finally realized they need one person to lead the charge. One voice. One philosophy, one accountable figure to tie the entire operation together. Now don't get it twisted. This kind of consolidation of power, it's rare, and it can backfire. If Barry gets this wrong, if he hires the wrong coach, drafts the wrong quarterback, or fails to keep the roster competitive while Sanders develops, it won't just be Stefanski's firing that people talk about. It'll be his. But here's the catch. Ownership clearly doesn't think it'll come to that. They didn't just hand Barry more responsibility. They handed him the keys to the kingdom. And whether that's genius or hubris, we're going to find out together. Because this next phase, it's already started. Behind the scenes, you can bet meetings are happening daily. Coaching candidate lists are being finalized. Staffers are being evaluated. Every decision from here on out is being weighed against one question. Does this help Shedeur Sanders become the face of this franchise? If the answer is no, it's gone. Cut. Replaced. It's ruthless, but it has to be. The NFL isn't a patient league. And the AFC? Even less so. Cleveland doesn't just need a quarterback. They need a quarterback who can go toe-to-toe with Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar, and whoever else rises over the next few years. This isn't about just getting better. This is about becoming dangerous. And the Browns are tired of being the punchline. They've been the project, the rebuilding team, the scrappy underdog with a promising draft pick and a cursed backstory. This new era, it's meant to kill that narrative once and for all. So what happens now? Barry has to hire the right coach. He has to put together a war room that's laser-focused on securing Sanders in the draft. No assumptions, no arrogance, just a full-throttle effort to get their guy. And when that moment comes, when Shedeur walks across that stage, puts on that orange and brown cap, and gets handed a playbook, it has to be more than a photo op. It has to be real, tangible, operational from day one. That's the line between hype and history. And let's be honest, Browns fans have had enough hype. They've lived through more next big things than any fan base should be legally allowed to endure. Johnny Manziel, Brady Quinn, Deshaun Kaiser. The list is long, and the scars are deeper than most outsiders understand. But this time, it feels different. Not because Shedeur is a guaranteed star, but because for once, the Browns aren't acting like they're hoping for magic. They're building for it. So will it work? That's up to Barry. That's up to the coach he hires. That's up to the development staff, the offensive line, the locker room culture, and yes, ultimately, it's up to Shedeur. But for the first time in a long time, the Browns aren't fumbling in the dark. They're following a plan, a real unified plan, not patchwork, not impulse moves. A clear path toward building a franchise around a quarterback that actually fits the direction of the modern NFL. It's bold, it's risky, it's Cleveland. And whether it works or not, we're going to be watching. Now, I want to hear from you. Was firing Stefanski the right move? Is Barry ready to lead this franchise to the promised land? Or is this another setup for disappointment? And is Shedeur Sanders really the quarterback who can finally rewrite Cleveland's tortured legacy? Sound off in the comments. Hit like if you're bracing for impact. Subscribe if you're riding the roller coaster with us. And share this with a friend in your life who keeps saying, the Browns are turning it around this year. Because this time, they just might be right.